it was wonderful to have that kind of ongoing daily activity relationship with somebody who had an interest in the world of politics and who had a superior
Yeah.
command of attention from the public based on her natural beauty as well as her ability to create smiles and laughter.
Every week here on Science Radio Drive, I've been talking to political guests, big heavyweights in American politics, getting the best analysis of what is happening in that race for the White House. Today, very happy to welcome Willie Brown, the former mayor of San Francisco, who also happens to be Kamala Harris's old mentor, a Democratic Party elder statesman. Good afternoon to you, Mr. Mayor.
And nice to hear from you as well.
It's lovely to have you with us. Now, I mean, you are a big figure in Democratic politics, pretty well known in the USA, much less so, I suppose, to others around the world, until very recently when Donald Trump got you very much into the world headlines when he told this story, didn't he, of how you and he sat side by side while you endured a near-death experience in a helicopter. Let's just have a listen back to that.
Well, I know Willie Brown very well. In fact, I went down in a helicopter with him. We thought maybe this is the end. We were in a helicopter going to a certain location together, and there was an emergency landing. This was not a pleasant landing, and Willie was he was a little concerned. So I know him pretty well. I mean, I haven't seen him in years. But he told me terrible things about her. But this is what you're telling me anyway, I guess. But he had a big part in what happened with Kamala. But he I don't know, maybe he's changed his tune, but he was not a fan of hers very much at that point.
Well, it's quite a story, Mr. Mayor, isn't it? With the presidential candidate, the former president, telling us how he sat side by side with you during a near helicopter crash, and in that moment, well, you shared that danger and you shared your thoughts, bad thoughts about Kamala Harris. Except, turned out, it was all news to you. You had no idea any of that had ever happened.
No question, and I'm sure that it's just a terrible mistake on his part. I'm sorry he made a mistake. I don't like the idea that he would say that I said some nasty things about the next president of the United States. That's just not true at all.
Not true at all. I wonder what led to all of this. Maybe he just mistook you for someone else.
Well, that initially is what I thought may have been his case, but how would that happen when, one, there was no such airplane or air ride with him on a helicopter, and secondly, I would never say anything bad about Kamala Harris.
No, yeah. Well, I mean, well, there you go. I guess maybe we'll never know. Maybe it'll come out at some point in the future. But then I see and then I read that you are thinking about suing Donald Trump over all of this. I mean, he's telling us how you badmouthed Kamala Harris. You say that never happened, and now I'm reading, or at least I have read, that you're going to sue him over this. Now, look, I know America is a litigious country, and I know that you are a lawyer, Mr. Mayor. But surely that's a joke, isn't it?
Well, it's not really a joke because it was initiated by fellow lawyers of mine, really talented lawyers. One, Joe Couchat, another, David Milstein. They were all of the opinion, and when I was simply laughing about it, because another black man stepped up, member of the legislature in the early 90s, who said he did have a helicopter ride with Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And he wanted to have the world know that whatever Trump said about Willie Brown in the helicopter, obviously Trump had made a mistake. He was the person riding with him. However, he did not know Kamala Harris. So obviously the whole matter was made up. My fellow lawyers, 3 or 4 of them in particular, said, you really need to put a stop to this and have Donald Trump acknowledge to the world that he had mistaken a conversation with others, a helicopter ride with somebody else, as being with you, that it was not you in either case.
Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe it was all just an honest mistake. Now, meanwhile, we do know, because it's very much on the record and certainly no secret, that you knew Kamala Harris, you worked with her in San Francisco. You dated Kamala Harris when she was an up-and-coming California prosecutor, and I know you've been mentor to a lot of big figures in Democrat politics. Gary Newsom was one of your proteges as well. But things could have turned out differently. Who knows? You could be on your way to becoming the first gentleman of the United States, Mr. Mayor.
Well, no, that would not be anywhere near possible.
Okay.
I have a career on my own, and at my age, I should be going out maybe with President Biden, not future president.
Yeah, you'd have made a lovely couple. I'm sure about that. I mean, as I say, you've mentored a lot of big people. When you were dating Kamala Harris, what came first? The relationship? Was she dating you? And then at that point, you realized that she had a big future in front of her. Did you decide to make her potential real, or did you first of all spot a star potential before you were ever dating? I mean, which way did that work round?
When I ran for the mayorship of San Francisco, it was a very tough effort that had to be made, and I had the great pleasure of knowing Vice President Harris at that time, and that was early 90s. It was wonderful to have that kind of ongoing daily activity relationship with somebody who had an interest in the world of politics and who had a superior command of attention from the public based on her natural beauty as well as her ability to create smiles and laughter. And it was a wonderful experience, wonderful relationship, and she went on to do other things.
Yeah.
After she defeated an incumbent member of the world of politics in San Francisco, who was the district attorney. And then she went on from there to become the attorney general of the state of California.
Yeah.
Again, defeating a popular man out of Southern California who had the same title she had.
Yeah.
And then she won the job of being a U.S. Senator from California, all in the period of under 20 years.
Yeah.
That's a spectacular performance by a talented person. And I'm very glad that I list her as a friend, just as I do the governor of California, Governor Newsom. I appointed Governor Newsom to the Board of Supervisors in San Francisco, his first political office. And there are just a whole host of other folk. Nancy Pelosi, who was the Speaker of the House in our world, he was a part of a team of mine. As a matter of fact, when I again was a member of the legislature, Nancy Pelosi was really instrumental and very helpful in the effort I made over a 7 or 8 year period with her, really raising a lot of money, collecting a number of people who were not previously registered to vote, to end up voting. So my history in the world of politics in California is quite extensive, and it covers people at all levels.
Yeah.
We will, for the first time, hopefully, win the presidency.
Well, I mean, you've been right at the heart of it for quite a long time. I mean, you can say that again. But I mean, you were even at one point, this is again on the record, you were involved in securing a political donation for Kamala Harris from Donald Trump. He put $5,000 into the hat for Kamala Harris. Of course, that was when he was a Democrat. But that's on the record now. Look, you knew Kamala Harris very well from a long time ago. You know, there's lots of interpretations of Kamala Harris. Some say that she's tough. She's accused by her critics of being soft on crime when she was a California prosecutor. Some say she was tough to work under. Now, knowing Kamala Harris as you do, well, as someone who had that close relationship, is she someone, do you believe, who's going to be likable to the American voter?
Well, I think Kamala Harris is maybe the most outstanding candidate that we Democrats could present to the public for purpose of ensuring the distinct possibility of defeating Donald Trump. And she's earned that right based upon performance in all the respective categories. And then also, she is a wonderful friend of lots and lots of people.
Sure.
And those long-term friendships translate into building of a team.
But is she likable, Mr. Mayor? Do you think she's likable? I think I may have read somewhere that you had worries about her being likable. I mean, Hillary Clinton, for example, this is your example in the past. At least I've seen it quoted and attributed to you. You thought Hillary Clinton's problem that people didn't like her. She didn't have that likability factor. Have you had the same worry about Kamala?
No. Kamala Harris literally, dramatically, was always likable by anybody who had an opportunity to be introduced to her, except those people she were prosecuting. They didn't like her at all.
Maybe, Mr. Mayor, you were just misquoted. Look, I mean, you do know a lot about this. She's accused of being soft on crime. Former mayor of San Francisco. Was she soft on crime? I mean, she was criticized, as you know, by police there for not seeking the death penalty when a police officer was shot dead. And some Democrats were among those who criticized her for that.
Well, obviously, there are people who have some disagreements on policy issues with politicians of all persuasions, and in particular, politicians who rise fairly quickly in all of the process. She, however, should never be accused of being soft on crime. I always thought nothing could be more fearful than to have Kamala Harris prosecuting me for some crime. I would just be willing to plead guilty.
You'd be terrified into pleading guilty, would you?
Yeah.
All right. Look, let me ask you about this. And again, you may have an interesting insight on all of this. Donald Trump, he has had what looks like a pretty unusual level of support among American black voters, particularly young black men. I mean, I was in Milwaukee recently. The first Milwaukeean that I spoke to when I arrived there, not a Republican delegate, just the first person I spoke to, who happened to be driving an Uber. This young black man described Donald Trump as the best president America's ever had. How do you explain an attitude like that among black American voters?
Well, let me tell you, I don't think that you can find 100% consistency with black people, just as with other people. It is just not part of what one should expect. You want to work for the effort. You want to be as philosophical committed to a candidate as well as to the public that you're trying to get to vote with you on it. And I spend some time now making sure that all black people I know get the word on why they should be for Kamala Harris and Democrats rather than for Donald Trump and the MAGA crowd.
It's interesting that he has had that level of support from black Americans, though, isn't it? And since Kamala Harris became the nominee, I see that support among African American voters has rather solidified. But it's interesting that he did make the inroads that he did.
Well, I'm just going to guess, but I would tell you that you won't find probably more than 12, 15% of the people on the black side with the attitude of being favorably disposed to Trump.
Yeah. Anyway, you are you, and you are still a big name in Democratic Party circles. You were invited to the Democratic Convention in Chicago, weren't you? But you chose not to go.
Yes, I decided that it's time for others to assume the role of representing the district in San Francisco that carries with it Nancy Pelosi and a whole collection of other people. I've been to 12 or so district events, and I've been to even more, I suspect, campaign events all over the country. And finally, I've been to at least a dozen conventions. Yes. And at 90 years of age, I'm pretty much convinced that somebody ought to be taking my place.
Right. I mean, you're only a few years older than Joe Biden, though, aren't you? I mean, did you think that President Biden did hang on in there too long?
I really do think that Biden was a fabulous politician, 29 years of age, became a U.S. Senator, could not even get sworn in because he was too young. and then staying in the business for all the years since he was 29 years of age, which means it's over 50 years of holding public office, including the presidency. And when he said he loves the job, but he loves his country more, and he needs to keep the country out of the hands of Donald Trump, that would be a great danger to this democracy, according to Biden. And he therefore left the arena and on the way out the door, made sure that everything he handed off to Kamala Harris in an effort to save the country.
Yeah, well,
That's pretty notable.
Well, I hear what you say. I'm sure you'd have been very welcome in Chicago there, endorsing Kamala Harris on the platform. Maybe you're being sensitive. You didn't want to make her husband jealous. I don't know. But what about if you were offered? What about if you were offered a job advising Kamala Harris? I mean, you're not too old to do that.
Well, no, I don't. If there's any need, I will certainly find a way to make sure that my opinion is heard. But I am far more interested in making sure that there is a life afterwards for everybody, and particularly those who are much younger than either Biden or Brown.
Mm-hmm. But you still got Kamala Harris's number on speed dial.
Only if needed.
Only if needed. All right, Willie Brown, former mayor of San Francisco. Pleasure to talk. It's a good pleasure to talk to you.